started 5 or 6 years ago when we were reflecting on the transformative work that we do with people who are attending our retreats and our courses. And we were starting to feel that wasn't really reflected in how we were managing the land. There was a bit of a disconnect between the two. For a number of years, a large part of the estate was managed as a dairy farm. The rest was livestock grazing, fairly conventional. After a process of reflection, the trustees decided that they wanted to move in a more ecological direction, switching to organic farming methods.
Rewilding is about making space for nature and wildlife. Imagine the view behind me as a silken tapestry made up of threads. Each one of those threads represents an individual species. Over many, many years, we have been losing species, losing threads one by one. At first it doesn't affect the tapestry, but eventually it will. Eventually the tapestry will collapse. We can do something about this. We can actually re-thread some of those threads. We can bring back those species. That's what we're doing here on the Sharpham Estate.
First year, we really let the vegetation grow. It told us the story of the previous regime and also gave us a picture of the nature of the plant life that was there. We really noticed the small mammals spilling from the hedges into the middle of the fields. What we've seen since was the predators, the animals then coming to feed on those small animals. We've seen pairs of kestrels which are now breeding on site. Barn owls now foraging regularly on site. Herons that you would otherwise associate with the river are now often seen in either side of the pasture here, waiting for the small animals to pass through so that they can pick them out with their long beaks. Year 2, we brought in some grazing animals. We've introduced a couple of rootling animals as well. 2 Mangalitsa pigs that roam freely. They nest within the tall vegetation. They rootle around and try and find their food from grubs and roots and things like this. Some of the greatest successes that we see in the farm is the number of insects that are around. They're feeding, their numbers are growing, but they become a food source for other animals too.
It's critically important that people are involved because we need an emotional connection to see rewilding for themselves, to actually understand it by being involved in it, being amongst it. That's when they start to care and share that story wider. And then hopefully rewilding will spread.
The aim is to lead happier, more fulfilling lives. So our mission is to connect people to the natural world. We think that by doing that, people can reconnect to each other. We see rewilding as really a vital part of the story of that nature connection. The essential message really is that we're not separate from nature, that we're part of it.
What we hope from this small parcel of land as it transforms to be a much more rich, biodiverse haven for wildlife, becomes an inspiration for others in the area. We're nestled so closely to the River Dart to really see from Dartmouth to Dartmoor to act as a corridor for wildlife to move through and really start to proliferate the wildlife that we see within our landscape.
Simply by walking through this exquisitely beautiful landscape, hearing the bird song, hearing the wind rustle in the tall grasses. You always see wildlife here, whatever time of day it is. It's an incredibly special place.